don't use many printable images or digitals within my junk journal pages, but when I do use some images, I really enjoy printing them onto different surfaces. So I got a few images from Unsplash, just the free publicly available images, which I'll leave a link down below if you want to check out, because they have an amazing collection of images if that's something you're interested in. But I decided to print onto some tracing paper here, which is something I've done before, and I just popped some washi tape on this to stick it to a regular piece of printer paper and then just ran it through the printer. But I've printed this beautiful image here that is obviously a little bit see-through, and then as I was getting my tracing paper out, I was just thinking, I was like, what else could I print onto? And I thought about printing onto some brown paper bags, but we've already got a craft background, so I was really thinking about what is something that will create a little bit of contrast with this little journal and the different pages that we have within it. And then I decided, what if I tried printing onto a paper doily, because I've never tried that before. So I was like, well, I guess this could either ruin my printer and I could have a battle with it, or it might turn out great for my journal. And luckily it ended up going through the printer just fine. So you can see here's where I just taped it down with some washi tape. And so this is how it's turned out on the paper doily here. So I'm just going to tear off some of the excess here, because the prompt for today's No Sew November that I'm working on is actually torn edges, and I was just thinking, I was like, okay, how can I add some more collage papers or things of interest to this journal, but in a slightly different way? Because if you've been following along with the pages as I've been working in them for these different prompts, there's kind of already quite a lot of collage going on, so I really wanted something different. And so I figured if I printed onto these different surfaces, I could then use some of the torn edges when I sort of tear them to the shape that I want them to be for the journal, and then use that sort of as my torn edge. Now I know that obviously these are way too big for the journal itself, so I'm not expecting to be able to use the entire image, but I wanted to print them slightly bigger just because I think that it will have a bit more impact than if I printed like a really small image onto the same surface. So I just sort of guessed and went for something that I thought would cover the surface of this doily, and I just really like the raised effect because this one has, I think they're little flowers, I don't know if they're picking up all around the edge, so it's really nice to see a really subtle embossed pattern. And obviously this edge here is really interesting the way that it's printed, so I'm just going to tear off all of the excess of the white of the doily here so that we have the printed image sort of like this. And then I'm just going to find somewhere to add this onto the journal. And I don't know if it's going to pick up on camera, but this doily is slightly see-through as I add it on here, so when I stick it down you will still see some of the different collage elements showing through. So I'm kind of tempted to pop it onto this page here, maybe along the edge. And you know what, I might have it sort of going across the two pages here, so we still get a little bit of the image onto the other side of this page in the true, you know, no sew format spirit, I suppose. So I'm just going to add some glue to this. I'm just going to carefully tear around the edge of this piece here just to create that torn edge effect. And again, I don't know if it's going to pick up, but can you see how you can still see the collage elements showing through on the page there? So let's cut off the excess. Okay, so that's how it's looking now. I've torn the edge there and you can see very faintly, but the collage pieces are still visible and they've kind of given a bit of a background to everything going on. So you can still see there's the piece of confetti that I glued down as well. And then if this is closed, this is how it looks on this side, and then also peeking out there. I think I actually prefer it like this, just a little sort of torn edge effect there. And I just really love the fact that now that I've glued this down, it's not a stark white. It's kind of got the colour of the doily and then also the colour of the background image itself. I think it's kind of showing up a little bit on here. It's sort of a aged effect, so it's really fun to see, rather than me just fussy cutting this image, which, I mean, could you be bothered to fussy cut all that, to be honest? I love fussy cutting, but even I wouldn't fussy cut that. So I think that's a nice way to add this image without getting too into the weeds with all of that. So I feel like I'm tempted to do another one of these doilies, but I haven't printed one out. I printed one on a doily and then I printed one on this tracing paper. So let's find a home for the one on the tracing paper and do the same technique here where we've got the torn edges and having it overlapping. So maybe I'll do one on the reverse, because I feel like this needs to be on something that has stuff on the background but that isn't too busy, I feel like. So let's see, for example, this might work quite well, like this, but I don't want it to be like right next door. So let's pick something else. Like this is too busy. This page, I'm not quite sure what's going on with it at the minute. I feel like it's a little bit busy and doesn't quite know what it's doing, and every time I'm flicking through the journal I sort of go, oh, okay, let's keep going past that page. It's definitely not my favorite. I really like the tip in and the way that it's been constructed, but something's not right here with the collage, so we'll need to come back to that. I could always add it here and have it be a piece that comes out of the pocket. That could be fun, maybe like there. Or let's see if there's any on the other side here that it could work with. This one's a little bit boring, I feel like, for that piece. I think there's too much going on there. Here, possibly. I am sort of tempted to pop it here, because then I could have it going across this section here. I think I might pop it here and have it going across 2 pages again, and I just feel like this is the perfect composition to blend in with some of the collage pieces that I've already got going on, because it sort of frames the stamp. So let's add this to here. I'm just going to tear sort of roughly down the edge of this. And then just add it with some glue. Oh, and it's curling a little bit. And I'm going to try and place it so that you can still read the text that I've included here for one of the previous prompts. And then just push that down into the background there. And so again, I've got the torn edge there of the tracing paper just going along here, and I think this works really well because you can still see the layers that I've added underneath. And I think this is definitely the look that I had in mind when I was thinking about putting together the journal in this way, where I keep adding these layers, is that you can see the way that it all starts to build up. And you know, it doesn't have to be in the traditional sense where the text is added last, but I'm still able to incorporate it into the rest of pages. And again, I've got it across 2 pages, so this is what it looks like on one side, and then we have the other side there as well. And then of course you see the full effect when the journal page is opened fully. And I think I'm going to add this piece that's left over just to the back page here that I created when I cut open one of the envelopes, and this will just give me something to start thinking about when it comes to what I'm going to actually use this page for. So let me just tear this bit so we don't have that awkward piece at the bottom there. And I really love the way you can still see bits of the brown paper peeking through, and it kind of helps guide you across from this page into that page. So obviously it doesn't look like much at the minute because it's a background layer, but once everything starts to come together, I think things will start looking even more cohesive. Like as soon as I put this on the page, I thought, oh, okay, we're starting to get somewhere with what it's going to look like once it's a lot more like finished and polished. So that is my take on the prompt of torn edges there, with my 2 additions of the torn pieces that I've added as the sort of full page images that are going across 2 sections, so that I have different ways of seeing the image rather than just printing it out and having one sort of image in the middle of the page, if you will. So that's how that is looking. So I hope you enjoyed joining me for this journaling session, and I will see you in the next one.